Hi, I'm Diane Dayton. We're at the 33rd Annual Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest right here, well, in Reading, Pennsylvania. This is the final weekend.
Here we are.
Yeah, Michael Paulo, thank you for being here.
Diane Dayton.
Yep.
I'm back.
You're back. And I haven't seen you in a long time.
I gotta be over 15 years ago.
I think so.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're still here.
And we are still here. Yay, we're still here.
Yeah.
And I did remember you're from Hawaii,
Yeah,
so of
got
course.
the kukui nut lay.
Yes,
right.
what do they call it again?
Kukui nut.
Kukui nuts.
Yeah, kukui
okay.
nut, yeah.
Yeah, got these. So,
So-
in honor of Hawaii,
Hey,
his birthplace,
aloha.
yeah.
All right, yeah.
Yes, we're doing that. So you have been magical with what I have heard you play already here at the festival.
Well, thank you, yeah.
You have so much energy. You are just so one with your instrument. And you do a nice little dance up there, too.
I know, that's always been kind of like my signature thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why, but I just, it just happens. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just a part of it.
Yeah.
You're excited. It's
Yeah,
that
exactly.
extension, you know.
Exactly.
It's that extension. But you've got some interesting projects going on, and one's special and near to your
Yeah.
heart. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah. Well, my dad passed away last year, January, and he was a great soul and musician, and of course, like everybody's dad, my biggest influence, right? And reason why I'm into music, he was a very talented pianist, actually a prodigy, and he had a long career and kept playing till he passed. But it was my inspiration, and so we played a lot together. And losing your dad is always hard. So for me to heal myself, I decided to do a project tribute to Dad, right?
Yeah.
And so what I did was I revisited some of the songs that he made popular when I was growing up, and then I recorded new music, And one of the things I felt since he passed, he was a consummate musician. I mean, when I would stay at his home in Hawaii, go visit, I wake up in the morning and he's playing. I mean, and he's playing 80-something years on the same instrument, and he had this excitement about it.
Yes.
I would go down and, hey, son, look, I found this new thing, and I was like, looking at him, I was amazed. Like, man, you've been playing all these years, and you still got that little kid thing. Yeah. And I felt guilty. I would feel guilty because in my business I would get tired and maybe not play as much, and I honestly I neglected making music the last few years because I got busy on the business side. So I thought, I'd rededicate myself with my dad's passing to do new music and hopefully continue, because he kept making records until his 80s.
Oh,
he had a record deal in Japan, so he was amazing, and so those are the things that I wanted to accomplish with this new music and then honoring him. So I recorded, like I said, his biggest hit song when he was at his peak. It was a #1 song for him, and it became his signature song. Everywhere he go, he had to play that song for people, right?
Right.
And there was another interesting song, a take on the little lullaby, Three Blind Mice, right? That song.
Yeah.
And he would take melodies. It was his thing. He would take melodies and arrange, because he was classically trained at Juilliard.
Okay.
He would do concertos. He would take a simple melody and make it to this big concerto of movements and musical things. And so he did it with Three Blind Mice, and I was always amazed as a kid watching him play it. It was amazing, and I always, got older, and I thought maybe I could join him. But I got to confess, my dad was so great. I was actually intimidated by him, like a lot of fathers, right? And so I would never have the nerve to go and play it with him. But after he passed, I thought, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I learned the song. I learned his arrangement, because he actually recorded it live.
Oh, wow.
It was a live record he did in 1963 at the Shell Bar. And so I took that arrangement. I took his piano off. Digitally, you can do that nowadays. And then I added myself on saxophone. So I did it like a big band sax section with him playing, a lot of his arrangements, So I did that. And then my brother, who's a drummer, he played with my dad for years. He was my dad's drummer. But he said, one of my regrets, I never made a record with my dad, because my dad made most of his records when he was younger. So but my brother never recorded with him. So I said, look, you play the drums on it. So I put him on the drums, and then my dad's drummer, Bruce Hamada Sr., it was like he had his band, and stuff. So I called his son, who was a musician, but he's a bass player. So my brother played the drums, but Bruce's son, Bruce Sr., played the bass on it. So it's a generational thing, right?
Oh, wow.
So all the three of us, we were young kids. We used to play together when they used to rehearse and all that. So we grew up together, and Bruce is one of the best bass players in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I put him on there, and it's on a new record. So that's kind of, my tribute to him, but also to reintroduce him to my fans, because they would see him play with me in concerts. I would bring him up and stuff, and he would always get a standing ovation, right?
Yes,
Steal the show, right? And so I want people to hear his genius.
Yeah.
So it's on the new project, and then a couple songs that were favorites of mine that he recorded. I did a version of Pupu Hinu Hinu, and it's a classic Hawaiian lullaby, right?
Okay.
And Paul Brown did he produced a great arrangement of it, made it contemporary, And then his hit song, I played it the other night, and so I made it kind of more of a bossa nova, kind of more jazzy thing, because I was more the jazz guy.
Yes, right.
My dad had that classical thing. I mean, he played jazz, but he had that technique, and so it just got done. So I'm excited that's going to come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is that going to come out?
It's actually being pressed up right now.
Oh, good.
As we speak.
So very soon.
Yeah, very soon. And and out of that release, I already put out 2 singles on Woodward Records.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Here's Happiness came out, did great on radio, and then I have a new single out called Blink of an Eye,
right?
That Paul Brown produced. Okay. So that's currently being played on the radio.
Oh,
so
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you, Paul Brown, and Brian Bromberg are doing a thing together too.
Yeah. So I've loved Paul. I've been playing with him for years, and he's produced stuff for me, but. Paul has done everything, right? And we all know, I don't know, 100 hit songs, whatever, and producing everybody. But he wanted to challenge himself. And Brian Bromberg is like the virtuoso bass players, right? He hooked up with Brian, and then I was honored. He called me up, hey, I'm going to make this new band, and you want to be a part of it? And I was like, yeah, sure. Right. So we've been in the studio recording tracks, and it's really coming out really beautiful. Of course, you can't go wrong with Paul Brown.
No.
So that's going to be out this year.
Yeah.
And I think we already got a record deal, and I already booked. Being the promoter side now, this is an advantage. Is that because I produce events, I already booked the band.
Right.
I said we're going to do a CD release party, and then we're going to have it at South Coast Winery. I do a series called Rhythm on the Vine there. And every year I do about 6-7 shows, and running from late summer to the fall. So BPM is going to perform with that. So the group is called Brian, Paul, and Michael.
Yes.
And it's funny because we're trying to think of a name,
sure.
right? And my wife actually said, "Well, why don't you just call it BPM, Brian, Paul, and Michael?" But she didn't realize that it's a musical term.
Exactly.
It's beats per minute,
right? Which is perfect.
Yeah, so BPM, and that's what the band is.
Yeah.
And we're already booked at the Java Jazz Festival in May.
Oh, that's great.
Peter Gonta, the chairman, called me up, and he wanted to bring me this year.
Yeah.
And my wife mentioned, Michael's got a new group. He says, well, see if Paul and Brian can come too. So I'm bringing them over, and Paul and Brian have never been to the Java Jazz Festival.
Okay.
And if you haven't heard of it, it's one of the biggest jazz festivals in the world.
Yeah.
In Indonesia, by the way,
Right.
who would think of jazz in Indonesia, but they love it.
They love it.
They love great music. And so I'm bringing Paul and Brian for the first time that they're performing there.
Okay.
And so they're going to do their own shows, and then I'm going to do my own show, but then we're going to do a show together at BPM.
Oh,
so
that
very
sounds
exciting.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. So
a lot of fun. I think you may have a Miles Davis story too.
Oh, yeah. It's on the new record.
Okay.
So years ago, while I was touring with Al Jarreau, we were getting ready to do a big tour. It's about 1984, 85. And so I was living in a house full of musicians, and we had the old cassette answering machine, people call and stuff.
Yeah.
So one day I came home and I checked my messages and I pressed the play button and all of a sudden this thing came on. Hey Mike, it's Miles Davis calling. Call me. And he tried to leave his number, and so I listened to the message, and I was like, no, that can't be Miles Davis, right? Is Miles Davis calling me? So I called my friends. I said, you're playing a joke on me, right? Did you call me? And they said, no, we didn't do so. So I took the number down, and I called it. I said, okay, let me call the number.
Right.
So I called it, and this lady answered the phone. I said, hi, I'm calling from Miles Davis. Oh, Mr. Miles, okay, and who's calling? And so he came on the phone, and I'm like talking to Miles Davis. So I go, hey, Mike, I heard your tape, and his nephew, Vince Wilburn, I used to jam with him at the house.
Right.
So he said, yeah, man, you got a tape of yourself because my uncle loved your playing, right? So I gave him a tape, and so Miles heard it. And so he said, I heard your tape. I like the way you play. And he said, I'm getting ready to go out on tour. And that's when he was he was sick. He just came out of the hospital. He was going on tour again. And I was like, hey man, Miles, what an honor. I would love to go on tour with you. But I'm already, Jerome's going out next week and we're leaving town. And so he said, oh man, you got a gig. And gracefully he said, oh man, maybe we can do some recording together, right? And I thought, yeah, that'd be great, Miles. But in the back of my mind I said, right. But then a year later, I get a call, and he's doing his new record for the record company, and he said, yeah, I want to come play on my record. And so he sent me 4 songs, and I ended up going to the studio, and I got stories about that, but it's not going to be long enough. But I did the session, and I hung out with Miles in the session, and we talked, and it was a great experience. But the record never came out. It was shelved by the record label, and people remember Tutu came out. Marcus Miller produced Tutu.
Okay.
So the record company, kind of shelved the record. They weren't liking the direction, so they put Tutu out. And then I thought, oh well, it's sad. It's too bad. I'll never get heard. But then about 2 years ago, the producers called me and said, Mike, we got some backers. They want to get the thing out of the vault and put it out. So they got the tracks, and then they had me do a couple more overdubs and things and stuff, and the record came out. So it's called Rubber Band.
Wow.
And so I'm on the Miles Davis record.
How cool
So yeah,
is that?
so in my career, I mean my heroes. I was growing up in Hawaii. I mean, I got to play with Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, and Al Jarreau. I mean, so it's, hey, I can die happy.
It was a real good thing.
Right.
Real good
Yeah.
thing. Well, you know what? Tomorrow is going to be a real good thing, too, for brunch here at Berks Jazz Fest. Yeah, with Brian Bromberg and everybody, there's going to be so much going on there, isn't there?
Oh, well, he got an all-star cast, and, different, I mean, Brian's music and the big horn section.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been actually playing with him for the last couple of years in his band, and and that's another honor because Brian's been played with everybody. He's a jazz legend.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to be playing, and Everett Harp's going to be there, and Lynn, the trumpet player, and he all the horn section, the Berks horns, and so it's going to be a fun show.
It's going to be a fun show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It may be sold out, and maybe it's not, and maybe it's something you need to look into. But it's going to be fun, and that's where we're going to be tomorrow.
Yeah. But and then going back to the Miles thing. So I took that recording. I thought I lost it, the answering machine, recording, and
calling.
And last year I was going through my things, and I found this tape, and it said Miles tape, and I played it, and it was the tape. It was the answering machine tape. I found it. So I went and I bought. Nobody has cassette players anymore, so I bought this cassette player that you can actually transfer direct to a flash drive. So I bought it on Amazon, and I went and put the thing in, and I saved it. But on the new record, there's a song called "Call Me" that Paul Brown and I wrote. Right? So it starts off with his voice. Okay, it's a preview.
How
People don't know this,
cool.
and so the track starts off. Hey Mike, it's Miles Davis calling. Call me. and then the song starts. So you know, I wanted to do it. I actually had in 1991. I had my record deal in GRP, and I had a song called Miles Calling that I recorded, and I think Chris Bodie played on it back then. You know, so but. I wanted to put it on that. I never found the tape. I was like, wow, I wanted it to be great if I could put that in front of it, but I never found it. But I found it last year. Well, and so there's Miles Davis.
All meant to be.
Yeah, it's not AI. It's a real deal.
It's a real deal.
Exactly.
It's a real deal. Well, I am really glad you shared that story with me.
I can't wait to check
fun. That out. That's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy, crazy schedule to share what you're doing. And
it's nice to be back to Berks again, and you know, especially John's last year, and you know, I told him the other night. I said, you know, of all the promoters that because since I'm on the other side, I appreciate what he does. It's a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and dedication, and I just had to tell him that you know, his reputation is so stellar. You know, all the musicians, all the people that come to the festival, they all talk highly about him. You know, and which is so great, and he appreciated that.
Sure
you know,
Well, we're glad you're back here too. So. Don't be a stranger.
Okay, Diane. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks again. And
aloha.
Yes, and thank you for joining us today, Berks Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
Aloha.